Did you know?
History books for life. History books for life.
And
Africa is not our home. Oh, while I dare Africa is not our home.
because
The Indians were you. The Indians were you. The Indians were you.
that's why.
Finds himself in exile in his own land. His own land.
So,
You just want to claim a spot for the whole thing.
because
We were always here. We were always here. We were always here. We were always here. Welcome to the Aboriginal Channel. On this episode, we're going to be looking at a little bit about Kentucky. On the screen, you're looking at is a mound at the Round Hill site in Kentucky. I'm going to read a little bit from the Great Pyramids of Kentucky, constellation alignments in the broadest for ancient site. The pyramids of Kentucky are only partially researched and certainly unknown to the public. Previous efforts to research and publicize them ended with very little about them being retained. Meanwhile, the unknown ones remain primarily on private land. The parabolic pyramid mounds of the broadest site remain on federal land. However, at the Bluegrass Army Depot and have miraculously survived basically intact. Their angular distance and dimensional alignments to GIZA, CARACOL, Orion, and Cygnus are studied utilizing precise ratios taken from multiple sources. Pause. Now, it says that their angular and distance and dimensional alignments to GIZA. GIZA is an ancient Egyptian city on the west bank of the Nile opposite Cairo. It is the site of three great pyramids and the Sphinx. CARACOL is a major prehistoric Mayan city, now an archaeological site in west central Belize. Orion is a prominent constellation located on the celestial equator and visible throughout the world. It is one of the most conspicuous and recognizable constellations in the night sky. Cygnus is a northern constellation lying on the plane of the Milky Way, deriving its name from the Latinized Greek word for swan. Cygnus is one of the most recognizable constellations of the northern summer and autumn, and it features a prominent asterism known as the Northern Cross. So from all that, we just read that they're comparing the pyramids of Kentucky to those in Giza and the big ones down in Belize, which confirms some of the information from the book The Antediluvian World, which it says that from the island of Atlantis, the overflowings were of civilized nations and they all basically worshiped the sun. So it's saying down in Belize, down central or wherever that is, South America, and then over in Egypt, and also up in Kentucky. All of that was the same thing. Variances between the ratios are compared to analyze similarities and differences in design that can be understood from LiDAR due to inaccessibility to the site, courtesy of the Kentucky from Above program. After some discussion of the results as relates the Orion and Cygnus confirmation theories, the data is constrained to the 1000 to 2000 CE period and compared with Orion and Cygnus to obtain the actual data of the angles. The ratios are used to form a triangular relationship and look for best fit curve for all the sites, but primarily broadest. The results demonstrate remarkable alignment to Cygnus, often within 3% but up to 8%, and exclude Orion for broadest, while leaving it and Cygnus open for interpretation at Giza. CARACOL shows remarkable alignment to Orion, but no further remarks are made. In addition, the dimensions via LiDAR of the main belt pyramids at Zone 1 and additional Awen earthwork shape, roughly half the size of the Eagle Mound foot, are shown. Distance data helps constrain, but no value was found in dimensional data as all three sites vary widely in design schemata, one being mega-sized, another being rectangulars and trapezoids, and the final being ovular bases with cone-like rigid apexes, one of which is aligned north by northwest rather than due north. Additionally, the southeast adjacent mounds are shown to constrain the Libra, putting a definite relationship between the pyramids of Broadus and Cygnus. Further work remains to show all the precise relationships and demonstrate every possible astro archaeological data, as well as more analysis of the earthwork. Zone 2, other possible serpentine earthworks throughout the property. Scans, satellite, and topographicals are provided to back up the identification of this Fort Ancient mound site as actual pyramid mounds as opposed to construction field piles. Roadways clearly conform to the designs of the site, which are remarkably geometric and cannot constrain to dark Draco or Pleiades easily, and distance ratios eliminate Orion as well. Options for all interested parties are considered with no definite theories of origin, use, purpose, or significance yet known, leaving also room for further research using cultural data as well as geoarchaeological evidence. Lastly, a call for providing future protection for all pyramids, but especially these two unknown pyramids, as pyramid mounds rather than mere burial mounds, is put out in anticipation of the time when the base may be shut down, leaving the site finally at the whims of the public's hands. A call for more computer or at least caliper level precision ratio analysis and even more sophisticated techniques is also put forth in a message of open interpretation, as this site has something to offer the entire archaeological community, commonwealth, and the public at large. We'll move on to some of the county information in Kentucky to see what happened to the records. Starting in the A's, Allen County, created from the southern parts of Barron and Warren counties, a disaster in 1902 destroyed many records. Anderson County, created from Franklin, Mercer, and Washington counties, disasters in 1859 and 1915 destroyed most records. Allard County, created from Hickman and McCracken counties, a disaster in 1880 destroyed most records. Bath County, created in 1811 from Montgomery County, disasters in 1864, remember that 1864, and 1964, 100 years later, destroyed many records. Bell County, created in 1867 from Harlan and Knox counties, disasters in 1918 and 1976 caused the loss of some records. Boone County, a disaster in 1880 caused the loss of some records. Bourbon County, a disaster in 1872 caused the loss of some records. Boyle County, a disaster in 1860 destroyed some records. Bracken County, a disaster in 1848 caused the loss of some records. Breathitt County, disasters in 1866 and in 1873 destroyed most records. Breckinridge County, disasters in 1869 and 1958 caused the loss of some records. Caldwell County, a disaster in 1864 destroyed some records. Callaway County, a disaster in 1906 destroyed most records. Christian County, a disaster in 1864 destroyed most records. Clinton County, disasters in 1865 and 1890 destroyed some records. Crittenden County, disasters in 1865 and 1870 destroyed most records. Cumberland County, disasters in 1865 and 1933 destroyed most records. Daviess County, a disaster in 1865 destroyed most records. And this is all Kentucky. Graves County had disasters in 1864 and 1896, which destroyed some records. Courthouse burned to the ground in 1897, but materials survived this also. Grayson County, disasters in 1864 and 1896 destroyed some records. Hardin County, a disaster in 1864 destroyed some records. Harlan County, a disaster in 1863 destroyed some records. Harrison County, a disaster in 1851 destroyed some records. Hart County, a disaster in 1927 destroyed some records. Jackson County, a disaster in 1827 destroyed most of the records. Jefferson County, a disaster in 1829 destroyed most records. Pause. That give you an indication of when they were planning on stealing the identity. Way back there in the late 20s, 1820s. LaRue County, a disaster in 1865 destroyed most of the records. Magoffin County, created in 1860 from Morgan, Johnson, and Floyd counties, a disaster has caused the loss of some records. Marion County, a disaster in 1863 destroyed most of the records. Marshall County, disasters in 1888 and 1914 destroyed most records. Martin County, created in 1870, a disaster in 1892 destroyed most records. McLean, a disaster in 1908 destroyed most records. Metcalfe County, created in 1860. A disaster in 1867 destroyed most records. Monroe County, disasters in 1863 and 1887 destroyed most records. Montgomery County, a disaster in 1863 destroyed most records. Morgan County, disasters in 1862 and 1925 destroyed most records. Remember, in 1924, they passed the Racial Integrity Act, so 1925 is significant. Other things were going on during that time, too, we'll get into later on in future videos. Muhlenberg County, disasters in 1862 and 1925 destroyed most records. Ohio County, a disaster in 1864 destroyed most records. Perry County, disasters in 1885 and 1911 destroyed most records. Powell County, a disaster in 1864 destroyed most records. Pulaski County, a disaster in 1871 destroyed most records. Robertson County, created in 1867, a disaster in 1871 destroyed most of the records. Rockcastle County, a disaster in 1874 destroyed many of the records. Rowan County, a disaster in 1864 destroyed most of the records. Scott County, a disaster in 1837 destroyed most of the records. Remember, in the 1830s, right, the Indian Removal Act and the Trail of Tears in 1838, right, so they was kicking you out and destroying your records. Spencer County, a disaster in 1865 destroyed most of the records. Taylor County, a disaster in 1864 destroyed most of the records. Trigg County, disasters in 1895 and 1920 destroyed most of the records. Trimble County, a disaster in 1953 destroyed most of the records. And Warren County, a disaster in 1864 destroyed most of the records. Washington County, a disaster in 1814 destroyed most of the records in the courthouse. Wayne County, a disaster in 1898 destroyed most of the records. Remember, those later years in the 1890s, early 1900s was the Dawes Rolls, so they were definitely destroying records then. Wheatley County, a disaster in 1930 destroyed most of the records. Wolfe County, disasters in 1886 and 1915 destroyed most of the records. Now, we just heard that most of those dates were during the Civil War years. Through the history books, which has all been a lie. So therefore, if it's a lie, then what's the truth? If it's a lie, then what's the truth?